It's 5:04. Good evening. Thank you for being here. And with 9 members of the board present, 9 of 9, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And tonight our pledge is led, and the moment of silence is led by Ms. Deathridge. If you'll stand.
Place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 3 announcements tonight. Just a reminder that our schools are currently in the midst of the annual Knox County Schools Coupon Book Campaign, which will end on September the 27th. Please support our children by purchasing 1 or more of the coupon books. Second, the Knox County Schools Fall Break is Monday, October 9th through Friday, October 13th, with the central offices being closed on Thursday, October 12th, and Friday, October 13th. We hope all of our families and teachers will enjoy this well-deserved holiday. Tonight, we'd like to recognize our public officials, and seated in the back there is State Representative Harry Brooks that we'll be honoring a little later. And also we have Chairman Dave Wright from County Commission here. So thank you both for being here. Are there any that I've missed? Okay, if not, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Owen?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to remove consent item D1, which is policy J210, and policy item 9E, which is policy G220 from the agenda, and send those back to the committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Norman. Mr. McMillan?
Can I ask a question? Ms. Owens, didn't you originally ask that those be placed on the consent, or am I incorrect?
From the policy committee, I did make that list of those that were on consent, but J210 is similar to G220, and so if we're going to consider that language, it would be good to consider those together.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of making that change to our agenda, say aye. 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 All opposed. Motion carries. We have next our special recognition of State Representative Harry Brooks, and for that I'm going to turn to Superintendent Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mr. Brooks, if you would approach the lectern there. Thank you for being here this evening. As you may recall, the board approved the acceptance of several very large donations at the August 2nd regular session. Those donations included over $19,000 for Carter High School, over $25,000 for Gibbs High School, and over $10,000 each for Halls and South Doyle High Schools, for a total of $66,493. Those donations came from State Representative Harry Brooks when he chose to use his remaining campaign funds for the benefit of the high schools located in his district, since he will not be seeking re-election. We wanted to take this opportunity to recognize Representative Brooks for his incredible generosity. Those of you who know Representative Brooks knows he is no stranger to public education. As a former teacher, counselor, administrator, he served on this school board from 1992 to 1996. He was elected to the state legislature in 2001 and has served as one of Knox County's representatives since 2002. As a state representative, Mr. Brooks is a member of the House Calendar and Rules Committee, a member of the House Education, Instruction, and Programs Committee, and a member of the House Education and Planning Subcommittees. Representative Brooks also serves as chair of the House Education Administration and Planning Committee. The list of Harry's accomplishments and accolades is long, so we just wanted to take a moment just to say thank you and express our deepest appreciation by recognizing you this evening. And we want you to say a few words if you would like to. But before you do, we would like to take a picture with, if the board would join me down front and you, and we could take a picture and then give you an opportunity to say a few words. Thank you.
Just thank you for the recognition. It did not need to do that. I was not seeking or searching for that, but some years ago I made a commitment to myself that whenever I chose not to run again or got beat or whatever the occasion may be, I would have the bulk of the remaining funds to be distributed to the schools in my district. So I worked with the Election Commission, and they helped me develop proportions in reference to the district and the school zones, and came up with those particular percentages, and then just did the multiplication, came out from that standpoint. But I appreciate what you do very much. This school system is the best metropolitan system in this state. Sometimes we don't know how well we've got it. But if you're in my position and you see the reports from around the state and you see the results of our evaluations, then I'm very proud of what you do and proud to be a part of the education team that impacts not only this district, but the state of Tennessee. But it's been a good 15, soon be 16 years. I've enjoyed it, have very, very fond memories, be looking forward to some new dreams and some new plans and some new ideas that we're working on. And for the first time, except for a cruise that my wife does every so often, this is the first time in over 10 years that Mary and I have sat down and planned a vacation in advance. So we're looking forward to that as well. But we're going to be around. We're always going to be supportive any way that we can with our education programs. But again, thank you. I want to thank the teachers. I want to thank our students for providing the state of Tennessee a great model. Y'all have done well. Thank you very much.
We have another recognition tonight, and this is the special recognition of our school security officers of the year for 2016 and 2017. And Chief of Security Gus Paducas is coming forward to announce those winners.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. And 4 years ago, we started an officer recognition program because, as you know, as you raise the expectation and you raise the bar, you have to recognize your employees that are part of that and make that elevated sense of capacity and elevated sense of competency a reality. And so part of our strategy is every year for the last 4 years, we have recognized a school security officer of the year. And so our first 2 years, we recognized one each year. And then last year, we just had so many officers do such a great job. We recognized 2. And again, this year, we would like to recognize 2 as well. And so it's my pleasure to announce that the 2016-2017 School Security Officers of the Year is Officer Kenny Bowles and Officer Scott Manning, and we have a plaque for each, and then they wear a commendation bar on their uniform. So
Chief, what schools do they work in?
Thank
well,
you.
that's a wonderful question. Now we typically have not released that information. I don't present it as a secret, but typically we haven't released it. So I hate to tell you. The good news is I do know. The flip side is we typically protect the assignments of the officers, but I'll be glad to tell you when we're done. All right, if that's okay.
Thank you. We got all this first.
Item 7, reorganization of the board for 2017-2018.
Okay, we'll open the floor for nominations for chairman of the Knox County School Board for the next coming year. Mr. McMillan? I'm sorry. Mr. Norman, sorry.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No lengthy speech here. We're just grateful. I think most all of us are grateful for the fact that you're willing to serve again, and we appreciate your service in this past year. You've handled this board and some significant issues for us very well, very capably, and I appreciate the way you've served us and this school system, so I'm proud to nominate you, Ms. Bounds, for chair.
Okay, so there's a motion from Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Roundtree. Other nominations for chairman of Knox County School Board at this time? Ms. Fugit?
Move approval by acclamation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Fugit, seconded by Ms. Owen to move by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next, I'll do, okay, I can get to do that. Okay. So next, open the nominations for Vice Chair of Knox County Board of Education. I see no lights. I will nominate Ms. Roundtree if she will accept that nomination for the coming year. Do I hear a motion for a second?
Second.
Mr. Norman seconded. Ms. Dethridge?
I'm sorry, I was going to nominate.
Yeah, do you have a nomination?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to nominate Susan Horn.
Okay.
Accepted.
Susan Horn has been nominated. Do I hear a second on Susan Horn for? Okay, Ms. Fugit. Ms. Horn, will you accept that?
I think I decline the nomination. Thank you.
Ms. Roundtree accept? We didn't hear from her.
Ms. Roundtree, will you accept?
Well, I don't see everybody jumping up to join. So with that, I was going to say, with that, I would gladly continue to serve as vice chair.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a, well, I guess we can just,
Move approval by acclamation.
okay. Okay, motion made by Ms. Fugit, seconded by Ms. Owen. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, moving on to the next item.
Yes, item 8, consent agenda with the removal of item 8D1, which has been deferred to the Policy Review Committee.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Owen, seconded by Ms. Roundtree. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9A, approve second reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy G180, Personnel Files as amended.
Should approve.
Motion made by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9B, approve second reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J190, Code of Behavior and Discipline as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Norman, second. Mr. McMillan. All in favor say aye. 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 All opposed? Motion carries.
9C, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy B160, School Board Meetings as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9D, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy B210, School Board Records as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 9E has been deferred to the Policy Review Committee. 9F, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy G290, Hiring Personnel as amended.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9G, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J122, Compulsory Attendance Ages as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
9H, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J140, Homeless Students as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9I, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J151, Student Assignment as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9J, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J170, Release During School Hours as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9K, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J196, Admission of Suspended or Expelled Students as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
9L, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J201, random searches for dangerous weapons as amended.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
9M, approve first reading of Knox County Board of Education Policy J280, alternative school programs as amended.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10A, approve gift agreement with the Haslam Family Foundation Incorporated for acceptance of charitable contributions in the amount of $50,000 to 13 high schools for a total donation of $650,000 for academic purposes.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Fugit. Any discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10B, approve gift agreement with Pilot Corporation for acceptance of charitable contributions in the amount of $50,000 to 13 high schools for a total donation of $650,000 for support of each school's band program.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Owen, seconded by Ms. Horn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10C, approve application and receipt of funds for a Safe Schools grant from the Tennessee Department of Education in the amount of $230,617.02 with required in-kind local matching services in the amount of $120,570.
Motion made by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10D, approve application and receipt of funds from a Tennessee Department of Education grant in the amount of $125,000 designated for the purchase of career and technical education equipment for the Advanced Manufacturing Electromechanical Program of Study.
Motion by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10E, approve receipt of donation from the East Tennessee Cardiovascular Research Foundation in the amount of $40,000 for support of after-school cardiac clubs at Knox County Elementary Schools.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Roundtree. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10F, approve grant agreement with Elgin Children's Foundation for receipt of funds not to exceed $24,540 and agreement with Elgin Children's Foundation for provision of an elementary school dental program to provide free dental care and treatment to qualified children at selected schools.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Dethridge. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10G, approve receipt of funds from a Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee Health Foundation Naloxone Kits grant for 252 Naloxone kits with an approximate value of $21,000 for the School Security Division.
Motion by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion on this? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10H, approve application and receipt of funds from an Office of Pathways Tennessee New Schools for Youth grant in the amount of $20,000 to be used for the salary of a work-based learning coordinator.
Motion made by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10I, approve donation from West Valley Middle School Foundation in the amount of $18,000 designated for the purchase of miscellaneous equipment and other needed funding at the school.
Motion made by Ms. Fugit, seconded by Ms. Horn. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10J, approve statement of assurances with the Tennessee Department of Education for a Read to Be Ready Coaching Network grant in the amount of $10,000 and a stipend and up to $1,800 in travel costs for each Knox County Schools participant.
Motion made by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10K, approve receipt of funds from Farmers Insurance for 2 Thank America's Teachers grants in the amount of $2,500 each for a total amount of $5,000 for flexible seating environments in a kindergarten classroom and a first grade classroom at Beaumont Magnet Academy.
Motion made by Ms. Etheridge, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10L, approve application and receipt of funds from a National Wildlife Federal Green Schools grant in the amount of $1,000 for Southfield Middle School, designated to raising awareness of paper recycling and a garden project at the school.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10M, approve amendment to cooperative agreement with the Federal Highway Administration for extension of the Garrett A. Morgan Technology and Transportation Education Program to December 18, 2017, using no-cost extension funding.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10N, approve grant agreement to allow the KCS Security Division to file an online application for a Walmart community grant to provide bicycles for a bicycle patrol unit.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Etheridge. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10O, approve donation from Gibbs High School Football Booster Club in the amount of $24,452.40 for the purchase and installation of a new scoreboard and play clocks for the football soccer field at Gibbs High School.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. McMillan, seconded by Ms. Fugit. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
10P, approve application and receipt of funds from a Tennessee Department of Education Diversity Innovation Grant in the amount of $5,450 for teacher recruitment planning.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Roundtree, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
11A, approve contract with Henley Roofing Company in the amount of $564,670 for their partial roof replacement at Halls High School and Shannondale Elementary School per bid 2576.
Moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Owens, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
11B, approve contract between Knox County Schools Maintenance and Operations Department and Gallagher and Associates Incorporated to provide fire alarm inspection and repair services for up to $200,000 annually as needed.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Mr. McMillan. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
11C, approve contract with Frontline Technologies Group, LLC, doing business as Frontline Education for provision of a professional learning management system for the term of October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2018, which may be extended for an additional 4 years, 1 year at a time, for a total of 5 years, up to $70,000 annually.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
11D, approve renovations at Carn High School for the Culinary Arts Program constructed by Shelton General Contractors in the amount of $397,446.
Motion by Ms. Hill, seconded by Mr. Norman. Ms. Fugit, discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for not being here Monday night. I was out ill, and I just want to say that I am not opposed to students having a special program. I am very opposed to how this happened. But it is what it is, and we are legally obligated. My real question that I need somebody at central office to answer for me is, when will Austin East get what they were promised, since Carnes got a brand-new program before Austin East got what they were supposed to get. I just think it looks bad, and I think the community deserves an answer and a timeline. Somebody tell me that. I mean, I will support this. I just want to know, what are we going to do about Austin East, which was the first culinary arts program in the district that needs new equipment?
Okay. Dr. Riswick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Fugit. In looking at that, I know Dr. Odom has looked actually at all three. South Doyle also has a program. Carnes has a program, and so does Austin East. And she has been continuing to work with those, and then has looked since Monday and spoken to all of those to see what potential things are missing or still need to happen to make that kind of be a full program or from that. And there's very few things that haven't. I think there's one item that is something that we haven't done in any of the three programs for a safety issue. Other than that, I think most of those things are in place, but as we've looked at that. So I think if there are specifics, I think she has touched base with Austin East and the administration there to try to see if there are other things that are missing.
As a follow-up, could we have a full report at our next board meeting about what everybody requested, what they got, and what is still outstanding? I just think the whole way this happened has a cloud over it, and the community deserves some transparency because it doesn't look good. I'm not saying the students don't deserve the program. I'm just saying the way this all came about is egg on the face of the Knox County school system. So we need some definitive answers, and I request, Superintendent, that you have a report for us next month.
Okay, thank you. Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question, and I guess I should have asked this Monday night, but we were talking about other things. I know it was mentioned, but I guess not to my satisfaction. We're spending $400,000 here, or the board is being asked to approve the expenditure of $400,000. Do we have a single source for that, or is it being pulled from multiple sources, or is there any money available at the present time?
Who would
answer that?
Mr. Spencer or Dr. Riswick, who would want to take that one?
There was no money budgeted for this, so we are currently searching for money to pay for it. That's pretty much what I can tell you.
So we've since Monday night we've not located any money to go toward the project.
Nothing significant, no.
Okay. In light of that, I just think it's irresponsible. I was quoted in the paper saying that I would vote for it, and I'm not happy with the project. I sort of tend to agree with what Ms. Fugit said. I don't have a problem with special programs, but we will have to pay for it, but at some point, because work has been done. But I don't think that we as a board should approve it until we can find the money. In light of that, I would like to exercise personal privilege and put it off 30 days and see if we can come up with some money, or if you can find some money.
Okay. Personal privilege has been asked for and granted. So I guess, Ms. Hill, that limits your ability to speak to the situation. I'm sorry. Okay. Ms. Courtney.
Item 12A, approve memorandum of understanding with Knox County Education Association as recommended by the collaborative conferencing team.
Matt,
I'm sorry. Did you have a
we have one speaker for this item, Madam Chair. Sorry, but it's been motioned, so we can, let's see. Ms. Tanya Coates had signed up to speak to this.
Thank you, Tony Coates, President of Knox County Education Association. Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me this opportunity. So before the meeting today, I gave you a copy of a very valid concern that Ms. Stethridge brought up at the school board meeting on Monday. So our conversation around this 4% that seems to be hovering over the school board that can be challenging. So our conversation came from those 6 points that you see on there, where we stand, and that was about 2.5 years ago, why this conversation came up, and where we stand in the state. And then on the back of that document, you also see where we were compared to like-minded counties across the state. So it wasn't just some of our neighboring counties, but how we fare. And we are in the red, as you can see where we started, where we compared to the rest of them. So I wanted you to have that information to know that if you decide, which we're hoping that you will, approve this recommendation from our teams, that we work together, that we will continue to have this conversation to figure out that it's not incumbent on you, but it would be something that we would work together, continue to work together to make sure that we're strengthening this piece with us and trying to get county commission and the community behind us in this. This is a challenge for us, and we don't want it to be set on your backs. But if we don't do something about it, we're going to continue to lose great people in our district to some of those counties that are on the back, or if not, some of our surrounding counties. So I again asked you to consider to let us continue to have this conversation together so that we can work on this and make sure that we're doing what's best for the students of Knox County. And in particular, if we do what's best for the students, we will do what's best for the teachers. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coates. We have a motion on the floor by Jennifer Owens, seconded by Tony Norman, and discussion will start with Ms. Fugit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're sick and you just push your light first. Thank you. I was just going to say, Ms. Coates, you know, I've been on the board for 7 years now, and every year we talk about we need to increase teachers' pay, and I don't think there's a board member in the world that doesn't think we don't need to do that. My only concern with the way this document is written is that I do not want the same misunderstanding that has happened every year based on the previous MOU that did not say we would give 4% to happen again. Our previous MOU said we would try, and every time if we couldn't get it, the board was told we were not living up to our agreement. This document says we will give it, and it's always said with budgetary, if the budget allows. I would just ask that if we go down this path, and I assume this is going to pass, that you would commit as the president of KCEA to help teachers understand this is not a guarantee. This is a good faith effort on the part of this board to increase compensation if money allows. The way our budget looks right now, based on opening 2 new schools, I don't know that we'll get to 4% unless there's some miraculous new revenue growth. So I don't want us to be sitting here in April after having signed this and agreed to it tonight and have a lot of teachers angry and upset with the Board of Education that we did not honor our MOU. That's, you know, so I know you, I've worked with you when I was board chair. I trust fully that you will help us make this understandable, but I agree with you. I mean, the board only can work with the money it has, and our county does have capacity, and so it's going to take more than this board thinking teachers deserve a 4% raise.
And so, Ms. Bounds, with your permission, can I explain to her what happened Monday?
Sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not opposing it. I'm just asking.
I don't, yeah.
So it's just a reiteration that we did say that we would, that what you just stated, and it's been recorded, that they've heard it, right? That we've known that this was part of that language in there, but you have done the very best that you could in the last 2.5 years, and I restated on Monday that the first time this went around, we only received 1.5%. The second year, we received 2%, and this year, we're grateful enough to receive 3%. So we know that you're doing the very best we can, but it's not incumbent on you. It's incumbent on our county, right? Yes. So you need help.
Thank you. That's all I was
Okay,
asking.
thank you, Ms. Coates. Okay, next was Ms. Dethridge's light.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess I'm going to reiterate what I did on Monday. We know we're not going to be able to give 4% because we're building 2 new schools. Being in the profession I am, I write contracts, and I don't like writing contracts with things I know that's not realistic. And I'm not trying to be funny because we would love to do this. We have an MOU that says we can't ask for any money for until 2020. And we agreed to that because we want you build 2 schools and give teachers 2%. And at that time, there's a 2% one-time outlay of funds. Everybody was happy, but everybody didn't realize that was just one time. So we said we would not ask for money for 5 years. And I think in order to get 4%, how much is that? Would that be, Mr. Gary, if we did 4%?
Mr. Spencer.
Mr. Spencer, I'm sorry.
Based on this year's budget, an additional percentage point would be roughly $2.5, $2.6 million.
And I'm just saying that with us building 2 schools, I just don't think we're going to be able to do that. And if our hands are tied until 220, this is going to be something that we're going to face every year. And I would love to do this. I think the problem is the minimum of 4%. I would love if it said maximum, but minimum kind of makes me think it's not going to be something that we're going to be able to really get to unless we have all this input and all this help and support from everybody from the state and the community and the commissioners and everybody else. And I just don't think we need to put something in there that we know that may not be realistic until our hands are untied at 2020. And so I just feel like this is something we really need to consider. It sounds good, it looks good, but I want something that's really realistic, that we're going to really, really achieve. And I just don't think for a minimum of 4% is going to be something that we can achieve in the next couple of years. And it doesn't sound good, I'm sorry, but I'm just looking at it from what I perceive as what's going to happen in the next couple of years with us having to bring on 2 new schools. And yes, the mayor helped build a school, but we still having to fund that school, and it's costing us how many millions of dollars, Mr. Spencer, a year to fund those schools? Extra, in addition.
We haven't completed the analysis of it, but it's somewhere between $3 and $5 million per school.
Per school. So I'm just saying, it's just a lot of money, Mr. Coates, and I'm not trying to be, discouraging to anyone. I just want us to be realistic about what we're facing here as a board.
Okay, Ms. Roundtree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do echo, I get some of the concerns, and I think Ms. Dethridge raises a valid point looking at our hands being tied by county commission. But I just had a question for you, Ms. Coates. I appreciate the data and the information that was provided on the double-sided handout, and I didn't know if you all had available to provide at some point a comparison between the tax rate of these places, because while this is all valid and useful information, I do think it's a little bit disingenuous to compare us to Davidson County, Hamilton County, Shelby, Roane, whatever the counties is, without showing what their tax rate is. And I echo your sentiment. It's going to take county commission and our community one big push to get to the percentage that we want to get our teacher salaries to. As former educator myself, I fully support pushing us forward there, but it's going to have to be a team effort. We don't have all the players on the baseball field to make it a winning game right now. So I just want that on the record that, as Ms. Dethridge said, our hands are tied by the MOU, and I really at some point would like to see a comparison. If you have the information, if not, I'm glad to go search for a comparison by county with their tax rate compared to our tax rate.
I know that we can always get that, but I would also, without incumbent of me to not speak, me speaking for the team is the chairs here, Matt McWhorter's here. Sometimes if those questions like that, sometimes I'm not the person that's the chair of the committee. So I think that's one of those questions that I would ask to send back to them because I don't personally have that from our organization, but I know that they, as a collective team, the board's team and our team, we have that. I bet you that they can get that information pretty quickly.
Okay.
Oh, and see, Dr. Drummond said she has it.
Okay.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Drummond. Okay, Ms. Owen wanted to speak to this issue.
I don't recall exactly the numbers that I'm about to very loosely quote here, and maybe Matt has these, but 4 or 5 years ago, when we first started looking at the goal of being competitive with surrounding counties, we were talking about a 5% raise over 5 or 6 years, something like that, before it would come into line with surrounding counties. So thinking about that information, that it would take us 5 or more years at 5% to even be competitive with surrounding counties. 4% is not close. So our goal of investing in our people, we're not really meeting. So I think having language in the MOU that says this is what we want to do and this is what we would do had we the money, I think is an important statement to make to our employees, that this is our goal, and if we can come up with that money, this is what we would do with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Roundtree and then Ms. Fugit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to echo again and make sure I'm crystal clear about this, that I do support giving a raise to our teachers if we can make that happen. But I think it's incumbent upon everyone involved with the MOU to also bring this same conversation to the table to County Commission. I see Mr. Wright back there. He's welcome to chat with you, I'm sure, at some time about this. But I think that the reality is, Mr. Spencer said a 1% raise runs $2.5 million, and we have our MOU in place till 2020. To come up with that percentage, what are we going to cut? What programs are we going to cut? I mean, if there's a proposal to make that happen, something has to give. And I don't know what our revenues are looking like for the upcoming year, but I can't imagine that they're going to jump up that high. Mr. Spencer may have a better idea of that, but I think that's just something that we need to keep in mind. Yes, I think the board needs to say we are committed to this, but we have to do so in partnership to make that happen. Thank you.
Ms. Fugit's the last light we see.
Thank you.
So
The only thing I would say about the minimum 4%, again, I know our teachers are underpaid. I've been here since 2010. We've been trying, and I know we compete with a lot of city schools next to us that also have city tax revenue. We've got to do better. My real concern is that this language says a minimum of 4% if the budget will support it. I think that ties our hands in that if we get any increases as a board, I'm just asking, as a board, does that mean we have no choice but to give 4% raises instead of a 3% raise and a new program for students? That's my concern with the word minimum if money allows. It basically means this board has no discretion to add any programs or do anything other than a 4% raise if the money is there. And we know, in a way, it's a moot point. We got to come up with about $10 million for 2 new schools this coming year, and I don't think our revenue may grow that much. But I'm just asking somebody on the committee, can you clarify for me what minimum if the budget allows means?
Mr. McWhorter, do you want to address that since Ms. Fugit asked for
Yes, please.
someone on the committee?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. The provision about salary is mostly a carryover from the same language of the previous MOU. And the way it turned out with the previous MOU was that although it said essentially the same thing as far as 4% increase, as you know, we didn't get that. We brought the same language in, not trying to tie anybody's hands. It didn't tie anybody's hands this past time, because the MOU that you're referring to as far as building the new schools was something that was passed after the nearly expiring MOU that also called for 4% increases was already adopted. So our previous MOU, which is still currently in effect, did not prevent that from happening, and we did not adopt the language in the proposed MOU in an attempt to try to prevent the operation of the schools from happening. We continued the language and its aspirational goals for the purpose of trying to continue to make the statement, both jointly between teachers and the board, that this is what we think we would like to see happen. The language was never intended, nor do I think it should be read as this ties our hands with 4%, because the key part of it is if funds are available. And they haven't been available for 4% raise for the last 3 years. We know that. But we wanted to continue the language in hopes that we could continue to get close to that goal. I don't know if that addresses your concern.
It does. I didn't, again, you've looked at this document in the old MOU much more recently than I have. I did not recall the old MOU saying that you would be guaranteed a minimum of 4%. I thought the language was we would aspire to 4% raises if the budget allowed. That's my only question about the semantics of that. And I agree with you. I mean, the board has discretion. You've answered my question. You don't expect us to do nothing other than teacher raises, and that wouldn't hold us to anything.
The new MOU does not say guarantee.
Okay.
And so it actually, that part of the language carries over.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other lights, we have a motion on the floor by Ms. Owen, seconded by Mr. Norman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
12B, approve special courses for high school curriculum, Americans at War, Astronomy, Botany, Zoology, Film Studies, Global Religious Studies, Introduction to Law, Marine Ecology, Musical Theater, VIST, or Variation, Inheritance, Selection, and Time, and Wildlife Principles.
Motion by Mr. Norman, second by Ms. Roundtree. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
12C, approve 2018 health insurance premium rates.
Motion by Mr. Norman. Second by Ms. Fugit. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 12D, approve freeze of current 403B plan.
Motion by Ms. Fugit, seconded by Mr. Norman, and we have a public speaker, Ms. Roundtree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have several speakers signed up for this agenda item. So our first speaker, if you would please, when I call your name, state your name and your county of residence at the podium, please. The first speaker is Nelson Britton.
Nelson Britton, county of residence is Knox County. First of all, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to speak on this tonight. I'm here to, in full disclosure, I actually, as a resident of Knox County, I am also a representative of one of the 403B plan providers for the Knox County school teachers. I'm here tonight to just present an alternate viewpoint to what I believe has been presented up to this point regarding the 403B. And in particular, I think it's important to examine more than one aspect of this discussion. It seems as though only one aspect of it has been discussed so far, and is that of cost, a particular kind of cost. And I think it's very important not to confuse cost with value. Just to illustrate, in the plainest of terms, there is a huge difference in the cost of, a burger that you can go to Costco and get some frozen patties and put one together. And the difference in cost between that and a Kobe beef burger that you take time on and season and custom make to your own specifications on your backyard grill, I would argue there's a big difference in cost between those two things, a very significant cost. There's also a big difference in value. And how that translates to the 403B or into the retirement community is this. In Knox County alone, with just one of the 403B plan providers, there are 4 advisors just focused on Knox County teachers, ready and willing to give plan-level financial advice. In the 401k plan, there is one the one that represents Knox County is in Morristown. That individual has 8 counties to cover. Now, in Knox County alone, I think there's, 90 schools and 2 more coming. Average staff of 100 teachers per school. Am I overstating it to say that there's about 9,000 teachers in one county alone? Not to mention the other 8 that are or the other 7 that are under consideration. I think it's plain to see that the amount of face time with a financial advisor that teachers are going to get with leaving the current plan in place is starkly different than what they're going to get if we go ahead and freeze the 403B and make the only choice that teachers have for their retirement planning be one choice alone, and that's a state-run program. So I think it's very important when we're talking about the last thing we were discussing in detail had to do with teachers' salaries and the way that our hands are tied in being able to really compensate them in the way that we would wish to. In light of that scenario, in that environment where that's very difficult to really improve on that standpoint, why then would we turn around and limit their benefits? In the human resources world, when you know you can't offer a higher salary, you always turn to benefits. What other benefits can I offer? You certainly don't look to take those benefits away or those choices away. And my biggest concern is that for our teachers that are, we all know what teachers go through and all that they do for us and for our students. And we want to make sure that they have the best planning and the best resources and the best income and everything available to them because we want to keep the best teachers. Then why would we go and limit their choices? If indeed that plan that we want to restrict it to is the best plan, then so be it. Let the teacher decide. Let it be their choice instead of one that is made for them and other choices being taken off the table. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker on this agenda item is Heather Britton.
Good evening. My name is Heather Fowler Britton, and I reside in Knox County. I am a former teacher, and so I'm coming to you in regards to the 403B as a teacher who has walked out of teaching. In 1996, I graduated college on a Saturday and started my first job on a Monday morning. Since then, I have been in the classroom the entire time. I've taught grades 3 through 8. I have been highly qualified in multiple areas. I have a former principal actually here who hopefully could attest to the fact that I was a good teacher. When I moved to Knox County, I had 5s every single year I was in Knox County, and I walked away. And part of it is because of the finances. Part of it is because we hear as teachers all the time how much we're appreciated by the community, how much people wish they could give raises, how much people know that teachers are worth, and yet things can't get done. I mean, we've had a long conversation tonight about your hands being tied, and it's not on you for more money, but it happens to the teachers. Listening tonight has been very interesting because it's the same things I've heard for the last 20 years, which is we want to appreciate the teachers. We know the teachers give so much. If you have never been a teacher or been married to a teacher, then you have no idea how much goes on behind the scenes. Even the teachers who aren't scoring 5s every time, you're talking hours of planning and grading and working and worrying about students, faculty meetings. You have all sorts of things that compete for your time. Tonight alone, we've talked about flexible seating for students. As a matter of fact, one of the business items that got passed a few minutes ago was a $5,000 grant from Farmers Insurance,
for flexible seating classrooms. That's a huge thing about allowing children the choices within parameters to have certain seating arrangements that would help them to learn. We talk about differentiation of choices in professional development. We talk about layered curriculum. We've talked tonight about having specialty programs at multiple high schools. We have STEM academies. We have magnet academies. Our county has been very big in making sure that choices are there for our students. So I don't understand why the choices will not be there for the teachers. If we push how important choices are for the students, and we're celebrating that, in the last few years, TCRS has changed. The 457 was limited on providers from multiple providers. And now the 403B is wanting to be frozen. We had a teacher yesterday that contacted VALIC and wanted to set up a 403B. It is not something that is antiquated or that is not current, but not allowing the teachers to have those choices, I feel, is a disregard. And speaking on a personal level, this obviously happened after I left in May, but speaking on a personal level, you're not losing teachers just to retirement or just to families. You are losing teachers who are good teachers who are leaving the careers. Thank you for the chance to speak.
Thank you. We have one more speaker for this item, Madam Chair. Josh Hunley, and as a reminder, when you come up, please state your name and county of residence.
Hello. Thank you, everyone, for your time. My name is Josh Hunley. I'm District Vice President with VALIC, and I'm from Davidson County.
All right, sir, if you'll wait just a moment, please.
Move approval to let him speak.
Okay, we have a
Our
motion.
board policies require, if you're not from Knox County, the board must allow you to speak, so I move approval.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Owen, a motion, so it requires a majority. We checked the board policy today, and it requires a majority of the board to allow someone from out of county to speak. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. If your light's on, Miss. Oh, okay. Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll take a vote. All in favor of allowing him to speak since he's traveled here from Davidson County, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Your trip is not in vain in the rain.
Thank you. It's going to be a trip back in the rain, too, I imagine. Well, once again, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. I just want to bring up a couple points. VALIC started their first 403B here in 1973. So my quick math, it's 44 years that we've been a partner here with Knox County. And, you know, we do things, we have licensed financial advisors. As mentioned previously, there's 4 of them that specifically work with Knox County. I'm the district vice president. I manage all of our financial advisors across the state of Tennessee. And so this conversation has come up numerous times, and we've gone through this, and most often, if it gets to this point, we have a decision that if everybody has ability to see both sides of the story, that you know there is a lot of value that's being added. We do a lot of things differently than the state would. You know, state-ran programs, Social Security, welfare, I mean, they're all great programs that have a specific purpose. But there's something that you could do above and beyond. And with the financial literacy of the state of Tennessee and the nation in particular, I think we have a lot of improvement we have a lot of improvement here that we can make. And that's what we're here to do. And we, as a company, work with all 50 states and 403Bs. We actually started the first one in Dade County in 1955. We do financial plans for the teachers so that they know exactly how their state-ran program works. It changed in July of 2014, which I'm sure all of you are aware. If I ask the question, I'm not going to, but we ask this in our staff meetings, how many people know exactly how much you're going to make in retirement from the pension plan or the hybrid plan, and how many people know how that works? And you would be stunned by the amount of responses that no one has an idea of how it works. So we run those numbers, what the state is providing, what they're going to get from Social Security, and then we give an outcome, and then they decide whether they are happy with that or not, and then they choose to add more to that. We go over fees, which I've brought up fees specifically because I've actually came to Knox County in the hopes of reducing the cost of our plan, just to find out that it was not possible for some legal term. Even though we weren't changing the contract, we were just reducing the cost. So if I was your paper distributor and I said, I don't want to charge you the same amount for paper, you say, we're going to keep, paying more for it. I think those types of things, and we've also presented a communication and education plan that I've implemented all across the state that will provide more education to the employees of Knox County, not just teachers, but all the employees. And we've also presented that to Mr. Scott Bolton, who is sitting here behind me. So I think the more important thing is to not reduce the options available and to completely understand, who we are, and we're here to partner with you. I have a lot of passion for what I do. I was a victim of poor financial planning in my own family, and I've vowed to not let that happen to anybody that I come across. And the reason that I'm in this career is so that I can have more of an impact to help people. And there's a lot of people that need help. And so I would just ask that you look at this thoroughly. And, I have the numbers, and I would be willing to go through the financial planning process with any of you. It's free for all Knox County employees. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
That concludes the speakers on this item, Madam Chair.
Okay. Open for discussion. Ms. Fugit and then Ms. Horn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't plan to support freezing the plan. As a financial professional for almost 30 years, I think more choice is better. I also think the ability to have financial planners sit down with employees one-on-one and help them plan is very worthwhile. We are not forcing employees to go into the 403B, are we? So, I mean, again, it's a choice. So I apologize for not being here on Monday, but I don't know why we decide. Is it too burdensome for us to deal with different vendors? Is that why we don't want to do this? That's my question.
Okay. I think Mr. Bolton's in the audience, and he's going.
Thank you.
Well, those are good questions. Let me first say that we've given a lot of deliberation over the 403B plan, and speaking with a person who audited the school books back as far as 1993 had an issue with the way that we administered the 403B. A few things that I want to talk about. When we talk about TCRS, we know that TCRS is one of the most stable public pension programs in the union. If you compare that to our neighbors to the north in Kentucky, they're on the verge of bankruptcy. So I commend the state and being forward in thought so that when we walk away from this profession, we're guaranteed a benefit for life. I also want to mention that there's been an initiative across the state of Tennessee directed by the governor for Retire Ready Tennessee. It's an initiative that we as state and local ed employees have the opportunity to be educated on our retirement, and they've done a great job with that. As a matter of fact, my office has partnered with several retirement seminars. As a matter of fact, since we came on board, we've almost doubled those seminars, and we do almost a daily basis question and answer sessions, which will look at the retirement options that are available to all of our folks. Now, I will say this, Retire Ready, the state office, is no longer just in Nashville or just, I'm not aware of one in Morristown, but there is a state office where Empower Representatives, which is our state 401k, in North Shore, available to call, to sit down, and to speak with. Here's a couple of concerns that, and as Ms. Fugit, as a financial person, Here's a couple concerns that bothers me.
Yeah, I just want to know why we want to stop it. I'm not saying the 401K is
Yes.
a bad idea. Why do we want to take away the 403B option?
Well, we've got some folks in our 403B, like, for example, our classified folks are on the asset plan. And being in my office, I have seen situations where people are contributing to the 403B and not taking advantage of the match across the street, which is not being a good fiduciary of what's, what should be done.
So we don't match 403Bs?
We do not match 403Bs.
So that's a reason.
Yes.
I mean, that's
exactly
sort of
right.
what I'm asking.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What makes the 401K better? Why would we want to take away a 403B option?
Understand. So the cost to participants significantly less. And when we're talking about, here's the thing I want to make sure that it's clear to all that are in office and that all, this does not affect anybody that currently has a 403B. This doesn't affect them at all. They can increase or decrease, so the book of business stays the same. But in terms of that, there's no adverse effects in easing this, but it does help us with our administrative efficiencies significantly.
Yes.
At one time, we had 36 403B providers. After that audit in 93, we cut it down to roughly now we have about 6 providers. But the problem is that we have never properly procured one provider that we can have a relationship with and partner with. Because if we did that, we would show favoritism to one vendor over the other, if that makes sense. So in freezing this plan, we can have that partnership with Empower, and we can offer that because it's been procured by the state.
Could we also then do procurement for a 403B?
Absolutely, we can.
So, I mean, these are, thank you. These are the questions I'm sort
Absolutely.
of asking. So it's not necessarily that we may never offer a 403B.
Correct.
But freezing the plan, that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. Why is it better for Knox County administration, and then we can procure like we do everything else?
Correct.
One provider. I mean, I run an organization, we have a retirement plan, and we deal with one person.
Yes.
And it's hassle enough with one.
Yeah.
So I get that.
That would be, and freezing it does not close the door on it. It just allows us to kind of put administrative measures in place where we could do it more effectively and to the benefit of our employees. So, and then it also helps us in reducing our legal compliance and our overall cost.
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions, like why did we want to do this? How did we even get here? Okay, thank you. And you've changed my mind.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Horn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Many of my questions were the same that Ms. Fugit had. So let me make sure I understand. In order to send this to procurement, the current 403B plans would have to be frozen. Is that accurate?
I think that would probably be the best way, so we could start with a clean slate and get appropriate administrative procedures in place, if that would be the pleasure of this board to do so.
I would like to hear feedback from other people, but I am not in favor of limiting the choices of our employees. I think that they ought to have, if they choose to enroll in the 403B, that's their choice, and they should have that choice. However, what I heard from the speaker from Davidson County earlier was that they're willing to give us a better price with a different contract. So I think that we certainly need to pursue that. So I guess I would like feedback from whoever has it on what that process needs to look like.
Okay, who can? Well, let's get the other people that want to speak, and then if one of you all want to speak to that. Okay, so Ms. Owen was next.
I think Ms. Hill was next.
Oh, Ms. Hill. I'm sorry, Ms. Hill.
Thank you. Okay, Scott, so if I'm a teacher and I have $100 a month that I decide I want to invest, and I look at the 401 that is currently going to be available, what does that cost me to put my money in there?
With the state of Tennessee, the basis points, that's the way that they process this, is from about 48 basis points up to, if you're getting an actively managed plan, it could be around 127 basis points. So that's the range. It's a significantly discounted rate.
Oh, okay, that means nothing to me.
That's true. That's true.
If I am a teacher and I have $100 that I want to invest every month, then, and I put it in, and my choices would be a 401 or the 403B, what does it cost me out of my pocket to put it in one plan versus another?
Yeah, there's a lot of choices in it. I'll say this, it'll range anywhere from about 48 cents to about $1.20 in the state plan.
Per
Now,
100?
Yes, something like that. I could be off, so I'm not a financial planner or anything like that. So, but an example of most of our 403Bs will range anywhere from 124 to some of them up to close to 200 basis points.
So 200, that's $2 per 100?
Per 100.
Okay, so it could be anywhere from roughly $1.50 to $2 for me to invest my $100 in a 403B.
Yes.
All right. What would it cost in a 401?
In the 401k, that would be the 48 cents to
the 48
$1.
cents. Yeah. All right. And that is direct cost out of my pocket. That's fees that's charged
That's
to
correct. You won't
me.
feel it. It will come off your balance.
Right, right. I understand that. But that still is.
It's a fee to you. If we're talking about $100,000, it becomes significant.
I understand. So, so I hear you saying that it makes, at this point, from what we know, it just makes financial sense to go to a 401k. And I get that. But I am struggling a little bit with why we would say if someone else has the 403 plan, 403B plan, and wants to participate for whatever reason, that we would tell them that they couldn't. Yeah. I mean, couldn't I do that anyway? Couldn't I just call up a 403B provider as a teacher and say, I want to do this?
You could.
It would be much more expensive.
Well,
but it would cost more money?
It would. And also, a lot of our 403Bs are kind of like, they're driven by commissions.
Okay.
And that may and sometimes could be, and not our VALIC, they're great folks, so I'm not speaking about them particularly, but I'm saying theoretically we are a non-ERISA plan, which means that those Department of Labor requirements that are on most of them don't exist in our area. So it is conceivable, I'm not saying anybody that we have, but it is conceivable that that could come back to roost on us if we've got people who are offering plans that give them money in their pocket that may not be in the best interest of our participants.
Because we, as a school system, are sponsoring.
Yes.
Sponsoring it.
Yes.
Okay. Is there some difference between us sponsoring it or not, as far as the freedom that an employee has?
Not necessarily, because by us allowing the 403B to be in place, we are sponsoring it.
Okay. But as far as any kind of a match goes,
there's no match in the 403B.
Through us or the state or?
With the state, there are some plans in that blend where, we talk about those points. There are some plans that if you put money in, the state is going to give money in excess of the fees that are there, and that additional balance will roll into the participant's account.
And that is something available to our teachers through the 401
That's
pay
correct.
that is not available to a 403B.
But it's available to everybody. The 401k and the 403b are currently available to everybody. All of our employees.
With the benefits you were talking about that the
correct.
state. Okay. Thank you.
Essentially, you could do the same exact thing with the 403b that you can with the 401k.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Owen, you've been waiting. What did you?
I'm going to try to put all my questions kind of together, so maybe we can answer them all together. You mentioned a reduction of overall costs, but we don't have any fiscal note for that, so that leads me to be concerned about an actual reduction of costs. If administrative hassle is part of that cost that is being changed by a freeze, then I would expect that administrative cost to be in a fiscal note to show me exactly what the difference would be. Part of the problem that I'm hearing is not as much cost as it is our own failure to inform employees that we have a matching 401k. And I'm not sure that our own failure to educate our employees is a reason to give up choice for employees or to end a 44-year relationship that we've had with this company. The procurement question, I'm not sure has been answered yet. So if either you or Mr. Dupler could answer whether there is a specific legal reason that we have to freeze our 403B before sending a request to procurement. I think that's something we need to be clear on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think Ms. Horn wanted to address this again, and Ms. Huguet. Ms. Horn, or did you have another question?
I really did not have another question. I would like to, as Ms. Owen just said, I would like to know what that process needs to look like. And I think same thought crossed my mind that we need to make sure that employees understand the difference between all of these plans that are offered. And another question, is there any difference between the classified and the certified? Can you explain that again quickly? I'm sorry, I think
Absolutely.
you did, but.
Absolutely. Well, the fact that we're talking about it today is great because I hope there are people that are listening to it, and we're bringing in this. I always say the best time to think about retirement was yesterday, so today's a good start. The classified folks are on the county asset plan. So they're on a full asset where they get a mandatory 6% match. Okay. After 5 years, they can participate in a 457, which will match 2%, topping out at a 12% match after 15 years of service. On the teacher side, there's the legacy folks, and I see several folks who are a benefactor to that legacy plan that is a guaranteed benefit for life with TCRS if you retire as a teacher. The teachers that were hired after July 1st, they are in a hybrid plan, which is a DB plan, a guaranteed benefit for life, and an asset plan. So that's kind of the difference between the certified and the classified folks.
Okay, so certified, they're the only ones that we're talking about that can choose between the 401k and the 403B?
The classified folks can also choose currently classified or certified can do a 403B or the 401k, and that is also available to our classified folks as well.
Ms. Fugit.
Madam Chair, I'm just not sure that until we have an answer on the question about whether or not we can do a procurement without having to freeze this, I feel comfortable making that decision tonight. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sort of thinking that we might need to wait 30 days and let the law department give us the legal reasoning or a legal opinion about could we. I mean, I hear what we're saying about it would be great to have one 403B provider. I just would like to feel very confident that the only way we can start that procurement process is by freezing the current ones, because I'm afraid if we freeze them and we find out that it doesn't have to work that way, it may not be a good idea. I don't. So I make a motion that we postpone this for 30 days.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Ms. Fugit, seconded by Mr. McMillan. There's already a motion on the floor. So
Sorry.
do we want to do a substitute motion?
Yes, I make a substitute motion that we defer this for 30 days.
Okay. So it will be a substitute motion, which will take the place of the motion that's already on the floor. Mr. McMillan has seconded it, and we'll vote on the substitute motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion for the substitute motion carries, and we'll defer this for 30 days.
You may need to work.
Item 12E, approve resolution to surplus property known as Oakland School.
Motion by Ms. Owen, seconded by Mr. Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 12F, approve resolution to surplus property known as the Happy Homes Family Center.
Motion by Mr. Norman, seconded by Ms. Owen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
12G, approve resolution requesting a waiver of scoring for portfolio assessments in pre-K and kindergarten for school year 2017-2018.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Norman. I'm not sure who seconded. Ms. Hill, did you? Ms. Hill seconded that motion. Any discussion? We have a public.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one speaker signed up to speak to this agenda item. Natasha Patchen.
Natasha Patchen, Knox County. On August 1st, kindergarten teachers were blindsided with the news that the portfolio system that we had successfully used for the past 2 years had been changed. The data storage platform that we had been using and understand was discontinued. The new data storage system would not be up and ready until the middle of October. At that point, we would have to be trained to use it on our personal time. Not only will over a quarter of the school year pass without us even being able to access our new method of storage, but the rigor of the portfolio has been ramped up to new heights of developmentally unacceptable levels. Of course, I am concerned at what this poorly designed and implemented portfolio will do to me. But even more alarming is the expectations placed on 5- and 6-year-old children. My first concern is always my students. Quoting from the Portfolio Resource Guide kindergarten teachers received on August 1st, to be considered on grade level, a 5-year-old must be able to, quote, write words with accurate one-to-one correspondence with the most frequent sound for each consonant and write vowel-consonant words such as at and it, and consonant-vowel-consonant words such as pat and mud, and consonant-vowel words with long vowel sounds such as be and go. Also, with prompting and support, writes words and pictures to identify at least 2 characters with at least 1 trait for each, and a setting with a time and a place, and 3 major events, beginning, middle, and end of a narrative text. And with prompting and support, writes words and pictures through a combination of drawing, dictating, and or writing to narrate a single event in a correct sequence and provide a reaction to what happened in the assigned text, end quote. All 3 of these standards have been combined into one assessment using a narrative text. In addition, a separate assessment requires children of kindergarten age to also successfully meet these 3 combined standards with an informational text. In math, our State Department has slammed 2 standards together, doubling our data collection time. Once again, the rigor has been ramped up. To be on grade level, our little friends must be able to, and I quote, decompose numbers less than or equal to 10 into add-in pairs in more than one way. For example, 5 equals 2 plus 3 and 5 equals 4 plus 1 by using objects drawings and records each decomposition using a drawing or writing and an equation, end quote. Another standard states, and I quote, students fluently add and subtract within 10 using mental strategies with 90 to 100% accuracy within 3 seconds, end quote. Is it any wonder we have crying kindergarten students and teachers? I ask you to think back when you were in kindergarten. Could you have done these things? How many kindergarten children do you know personally who could do these things? I know that I did not do these things in kindergarten. With Ms. Rudolph's gentle guidance, I created with blocks, paint, crayons, and clay. I explored letters and the sounds that they made. I counted to 10 and was given a solid foundation in number sense. I measured with my feet in little cubes. I problem solved as I worked puzzles, and I sang and made music. I visited the market to learn about foods, and I made the most delicious applesauce that I've ever eaten. Yes, times have changed. However, the way a child develops has not. Babies still walk at about age 1. Toddlers still utter simple sentences at about age 2. The ability to think concretely does not develop until age 7, and abstract thinking develops sometime around age 11. We are asking children to do things they are developmentally not able to do, and then we say they're below grade level. I'm tired of developmentally inappropriate curriculum requirements being placed on 5- and 6-year-olds. What next? Quantum physics? I am weary of unrealistic demands placed on teachers. We are expected to use this new portfolio, but it takes our state a quarter of the year to get it ready for us to use. Then, by the time we are trained in it, nearly half the year will be gone. It seems like they want us to fail. I am weary of the words rigorous and robust, and I would like to introduce 2 new words, relevant and realistic. Our children deserve a developmentally appropriate curriculum, and teachers deserve a well-thought-out teacher growth measurement tool. Thank you for your time and consideration.
There's a motion and a second on the floor on this, so we will start our discussion with Mr. Norman, and then Ms. Dethridge, and then Ms. Roundtree.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been the crabbiest one up here, I guess, in terms of evaluation system. Everybody knows my feeling about the current system, and just frankly, I'd summarize it with a phrase like fake science gobbledygook. That's what I'm going to start calling it, because that's what it truly is. It's absolutely. When you get into it, and I go back and I look at things like the Teacher Advisory Council report, and I greatly appreciate people who dug into this and started to try to do the best they could, which we've made steps. At least we're not requiring everybody to go through the team evaluation model. We've given an option. And I think we've had some very grateful teachers to be able to choose a lesser a version of this that's much less burdensome. So the Tiger seems to be. But it still is based on completely fallacious, false premises, and it's just a big lie. That's all it is. It's a big lie that's supported by a huge amount of money and administrative cost all over. So, we're grouching about it, I'm grouching about it, and the only way that we can, and I'm glad Harry went home, by the way, because, Harry was part of this. He was a big part of it. But that's not to put the blame on him or any particular legislator, but the legislative, that's where our work is. Our work is with the legislative branch. We've got to be able to speak to them. They've got to be able to understand the positions of people that take objection to this. And so I'd just like to move this into our next October meeting, and us really have a good discussion about the strategy that we're going to use to confront this system. It's being challenged all over the United States, and it's being found faulty. I mean, court cases are saying no to TVAS and all of its premises. So it's time for our legislature to hear it. I think our system is one that, as Harry said, we're listened to. We're a leader in a lot of ways educationally. So I'd just like to move this and put it on our agenda next month as a discussion item, and let's see what we can do to come up with a strategy. Thank you.
Dethridge.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. So let me get this clear, Tony. So move the resolution to next month, is that what you're saying, or just the whole discussion?
Just the whole discussion.
Okay. I guess the young lady, the teacher that just spoke, gave me a lot of insight to what's really happening in the classroom, because I'm going by what I hear and I heard and understood. I think that some of the teachers' portfolio, they did very well, and some of them didn't, but it sounded like they changed it. So I would just like to ask Dr. Riswick, would you please explain to me what you are doing with the state as far as waivers and what is going on, and where are we at this moment as far as those discussions are going?
Dr. Riswick, is Rodney Russell here? He's not, is he? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Dethridge. So where we stand right now is again, from the outcome of this resolution, Ms. Bounds had talked to Mr. Dupler and I to take a look at what options we might have for the state. So we've got a few things drafted. Again, waiting to see kind of the will of the board at that point. One would be a waiver form that would come from the district, from the superintendent to the commissioner. One idea would be to kind of do a suspension, kind of with the first grade. First grade and the fine arts are not required. It's an opt-in if they want to. And so the district made a decision this year because of the changes, to suspend that for a year as the dust kind of settles and see, if it's a worthwhile thing or not. Because, the other side of the story is portfolio does give individual scores to teachers, as opposed for, if you guys remember, for years they kind of had to pick a school-wide growth score and kind of felt that was unfair. Part of this issue, again, the changes have happened, so totally understand why we would want to use portfolio now, but that was kind of originally how it happened. So one of those would be asking for the waiver to suspend, just like our first grade and fine arts teachers had, that those wouldn't count against them this year, and in return, I guess we resort back to picking the school-wide measure. We played with another one too that is a possibility that would growth is a 35% measure, and it could count 10% for teachers if they were to do well and it helped their evaluation. Potentially could count up to 35%. Again, neither one's perfect, but right now those are the two options as we were drafting some that might be worthwhile in the waiver.
So you're asking then for the waiver form to give the teachers options would be the best way to go, or I'm looking at the resolution, and is that not a part of this resolution though, is it?
That is not a part of the resolution. It's two separate things. But what Dr. Riswick has said they could do, which would send us, our resolution just puts the Department of Ed on notice that we do not agree with this. To my knowledge, resolutions are not binding. We could combine it with a waiver, if I understand Dr. Riswick correctly, asking the board if the board approves this, that's our statement as a board, and then Dr. Riswick and Superintendent Thomas could ask for a waiver to suspend for kindergarten and pre-K the harm against them this year. So it would be like a no harm year while they learned the system, figured it out, piloted it, whatever. So when I spoke with the kindergarten teachers, they were in favor of that, asking our resolution plus Dr. Thomas and Dr. Riswick working on a waiver. So those could be independent or done together.
Okay, because I guess my concern is for those teachers that could benefit from it, they will not be able to. So I would like to have the option, if they do well, can we get them some type of benefit? But if they don't, then it doesn't count against them. The same thing we kind of did with evaluations or something last year?
The way I understand it, our waiver would not impact that. It could send a double signal if they sent a waiver asking that it count 10% or whatever. But my sentiment from the kindergarten teachers I've spoken to, while it could benefit some, they feel like it's so poorly designed and so unfair to not have it ready to go that they just want the whole thing suspended for the year to give the state a chance to figure it out. So, Dr. Riswick, is that
No, I think that's accurate. I think just one little bit of history that might help with that is that the pre-K and K portfolio requirement is actually in legislation based on if districts receive funding for a pre-K program. So that's kind of where we are with that. You know, we're kind of under the law to do that. So, but that's accurate what you're saying, Ms. Bounds, that if we did the suspension for a year or held them harmless for a year to practice that, then it wouldn't affect. Again, Commissioner would have to agree the waiver of the state law for us for that year, though.
So if we're going to practice it, I guess I'm trying to figure out how we get some teachers if they do well, I want them to get credit. I mean, I know we're practicing, but if they can get some kind of credit for that practice, it'd be great. If it's going to hurt them, I would say no. I mean, so I don't know if this waiver can do both. I mean,
we have some other people that want to discuss, but from what Ms. Patchett shared with us, the kindergarten teachers, I believe, feel that they've been told multiple things. The standards don't really line up with, they don't match, and there's more problems. It's not just all about practicing. They did a pilot for 2 years that they were happy with, and it was my understanding and Representative Smith's understanding that the Department of Ed said they were going to go with a format like Knox County, and when it came back from the State Department of Ed, it was totally different than what the Knox County teachers had piloted for 2 years. They piloted it, they liked it, and they were willing to go with it. What they have in front of them now that has no ability to upload their data, they're not.
But see, we're not talking kindergarten, we're talking first grade.
No, you're talking pre-K and kindergarten only. First grade and fine arts have already been suspended.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Which is what our concern was that it didn't feel right for first grade and fine arts, so why is it okay for kindergarten and pre-K?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I lost track. Okay, because I'm very passionate about this. So our next. Amber's next,
Yes.
and then Ms. Fugit. Okay.
Okay. We did kind of get off track there, and I think I lost my train of thought, but thank you, Natasha, for coming to speak, and I see some other kindergarten teacher friends in the audience out there. As a current doc student studying literacy, I'm extremely concerned by what Natasha read out, that the expectation now is for our kindergartners to most frequently be able to accurately spell CVC words. Am I understanding that correctly? And write CVC words. I guess I'm going to die on this hill, and I'll be right there with Tony.
Long vowels too.
Oh, and long vowels. Excellent. I can't tell you how developmentally inappropriate that is for our children, but I just want to add, Tony mentioned we need to get our legislature on board with this. I really think we also need to look closely at what's happening at the Department of Ed and with the State Board. I mean, there's enough blame to go around. I don't think it's just, the ledge gets to take all the blame, but we talk a lot about we want to grow our kids, and there are ways to do that are not developmentally inappropriate. And so I, of course, plan to support this, but I just want to leave some folks with a thought from the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and they talking specifically about why assessment is important and why it should be developmentally appropriate. And they say in their position statement that there should be a system in place to collect, make sense of, and use the assessment information to guide what goes on in the classroom. Teachers should use this information in planning curriculum and learning experience and moment-to-moment interactions with children. That is, teachers continually engage in assessment for the purpose of improving teaching and learning. Additionally, those methods of assessment should be appropriate to the developmental status and experiences of young children, and they recognize individual variation in learners and allow children to demonstrate competence in different ways. From all that I've seen of this, it doesn't do that. And we need to be prepared for the kindergarten assessment that's coming down the pipeline from the Department of Ed. If y'all think this is bad, that's even worse.
I think Ms. Fugit was next.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree with what folks have said. I would like to kind of flip this discussion a little back to I would like Knox County not only to, I just concur with Mr. Norman that I think we need to talk about this and be a leader. I don't want us to always be seen as against what the state is doing. It is so easy to say don't do. We need to come with some solutions. And I say that if you as teachers are frustrated, imagine what it's like to be a parent. I could cry when I hear educators disagreeing, because what is a parent supposed to think? I hear from educators that some of this is good, and then I hear from educators this is bad. And all a parent wants to know is my child learning like they're supposed to learn, and are they able to compete fairly with everybody else in the country? And all this started back from when we weren't able to do that. And I'm just saying here as the parent voice on the board, that's why I ran. I came all the way through as a PTA mom and as a businesswoman and as a parent. All I've ever wanted was to know, is my child getting an adequate, excellent education where they can compete with any other student in any other school in this country? And I will also say, parents want to know whether their child's teacher is good or not. And I will say, as the daughter of a teacher, I never had a bad teacher, because teachers' children don't get bad teachers. But there are some teachers that aren't as good, and we need to figure out a way to help recognize that and coach that, and that is what the evaluation tool is supposed to be, rather than punitive. So I just encourage us as we have these conversations. I agree with Mr. Norman, but we need to come with some solutions that get to what started this in the first place, was parents wanting to know that their children were getting a really outstanding education.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Horn, and then Ms. Owen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We certainly need a strong evaluation system, I agree. But I just wanted to, and this is really not the topic that we're on, but to address what the teacher said and what Ms. Roundtree said earlier. I just had a long conversation last week with a second grade math teacher who has very developmentally inappropriate concepts that are she's supposed to teach to her students. And I'm very concerned about that. And as parents, I think parents are very concerned about that. And so I think we do have a couple of different conversations going on here, but we have things coming out of the Department of Education that teachers who have been trained and taken classes on what is developmentally appropriate. I can't think of what term I'm trying to find in my brain right now, but what is developmentally appropriate for children, a lot of this does not align with that. And so we have two big problems that we're talking about here. And so I certainly think that we need to have more conversation on this problem as well as the evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Owen.
I did the portfolio evaluation as a pilot as a music teacher. And when we started that pilot project in Knox County, it was ready to go. It had already been tested. We were well trained, and there were still tears because it was very new and we were still learning. I can't imagine expecting any educator to begin that process 3 months into the school year. That just seems completely ridiculous to me. So I think we need to do whatever we can to put it off, but also to speak with our legislature. And as we do that, I would like to ask if this board will reach out to Jim Rye, and we don't have to reach far because he's in the audience. He is the government relations person with TEA, and I think he could help us with speaking with our legislators. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor, and we've had discussion. So all in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. But at the request of several board members, and I apologize to the audience, but we need to take a small recess. So we will reconvene at 7 o'clock for public forum.
back from recess? Oh, you said that? Oh, okay, we are back from our recess, and we're going to move on to public forum. And just a reminder to state your name and county when you come up to the podium. And we do have quite a few people signed up tonight, so just be aware of your time for the next person behind you. Our first speaker is Ann Loy.
My name is Ann Loy. I'm a retired elementary teacher and principal from both Knoxville City and Knox County schools. I retired in 2001. I live in Knox County, and I'm currently president of the Knoxville affiliate of AAUW. AAUW began in 1881 to promote higher education for women. Our Knoxville branch was established in 1903, the earliest affiliate in Tennessee. 2 years ago, all AAUW members in the U.S. were asked to contact Title IX coordinators so that the new governmental resource guide could be given to them. I called Scott Bolton, whom AAUW had identified from Knox County's website, to ask who in the schools were appointed as the Title IX coordinators. He said the principals. But I'm just now getting around to getting this guide distributed. Often, people don't realize that the law includes activities of classrooms and not just athletics. We want to be sure that our school officials have the training and authority to oversee compliance with Title IX law. Already, the Department of Education is trying to lessen the benefits of it. Just last Thursday, AAUW sent an email to us saying Secretary of Education Betty DeVos announced that she's taking the first steps towards dismantling protection for survivors of campus sexual assault, claiming that existing guidelines have failed. According to this logic, the Secretary sees evidence that schools are failing to adequately protect students as a reason to weaken Title IX protections, not enforce them. We want to remain committed to protecting and defending Title IX. So, officially, 45 years ago, the President signed Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 into law, which even AAUW helped craft. It's a comprehensive federal law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity. I have recently met with Knox County's current Title IX coordinator, Ms. Jennifer Hemmelgarn, and I've provided your secretary, Ms. Coatney, with copies of the resource guide and letter to school-level coordinators to distribute to you before this meeting. And I will be scheduled for the agendas of both groups of principals' November's meetings to speak with them and provide the internet link to obtain the resource guide. The guide shows that the law is very detailed, and I hope you've had a chance to look over it. I'm mostly quoting from it. Title IX protects students, employees, applicants for admission and employment, and other persons from all forms of sex discrimination, including discrimination based on gender identity or failure to conform to stereotypical notions of masculinity or femininity. All students, as well as other persons at recipient institutions, that is, places that receive federal funds, are protected in all aspects of a recipient's educational programs and activities. It also talks about parenting and pregnant students. I just want to be sure that everyone concerned with safety in our schools knows about this. I have a little story to tell about sex harassment in the elementary school. At my last school, the fifth grade teachers asked me to come speak to their classes. The boys were calling each other fag in the cafeteria. Well, I thought they may not know what that meant exactly, but they had some kind of idea that it was a bullying kind of term. I took a policy sheet that said there shouldn't be sexual harassment to students, and talked to the classes and said some of the name calling that's going on has a sexual meaning, and whether it's boy to boy, girl to boy, boy to girl, or girl to girl, it's against the school rules, and I held up the paper. It's also against the law. And if you do this and get caught, you have to come see me and take this paper home and have your parents sign it and bring it back. And if it happens again, you might have to get suspended. Well, I had one student that had to have the paper signed. Then the fourth grade teachers asked me to come talk to their classes, which I did. I appreciate being able to speak to you, and I hope you can tell I'm still passionate about schools and kids. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Skip Overstreet.
Thank you. My name is Skip Overstreet, and I live in Knox County. I spent 31 years in the education industry as a teacher, a coach, assistant principal, an athletic director, and the last 12 years as a principal. In 2008, I was selected the East Tennessee Principal of the Year and a finalist for the Tennessee Principal of the Year. I am currently semi-retired, and after listening to all of this tonight, I am glad. On August 7th, I went by Farragut Primary School after dismissal to introduce a neighbor, friend of mine who had just started to work there, to one of my former teachers, who I will not name, who happened to be one of my best teachers at Lenore City Elementary School when I was principal. A lady told me in the office that she was down the hall. Another lady looked up and saw me and said, "No, she's already gone for the day." I went back the next day after school, and I approached an officer and a teacher and was told that she did not work there. I pulled over on the other side of the property towards the exit to get out of the way and to receive a phone call from my book publisher. I did ask a lady for permission, and she said that was fine. I saw an officer approaching my vehicle, and I got out, and he told me the principal said I need to leave the property. I left, and later I received a phone call from an officer who said I was banned from all Knox County property. I later called back and asked for an administrator at the school. I did receive a phone call from the assistant principal and explained to him what happened. He said he would check into it and for me to call him back the next day. I called back and asked for him, and a policeman answered the phone. I was surprised that I asked for an administrator and a policeman answered the phone. He asked why I was calling the school, and I told him. He got upset with me and told me he wasn't going to argue with me and told me to shut up and listen. After he spoke, he hung up. The next day, I called an SRO officer at Farragut High School, who happens to be a friend of mine, and he said he would meet me about the situation. As we were talking, he handed me a letter that I did not read until I got home. I was shocked by the content of the letter. The letter accused me of stalking a teacher and that I had no reason for being there and was banned from all Knox County school property. To this date, I have never received this certified letter that I was told was going to be sent to me. I talked to several employees at the school board, and by the way, everybody I talked to has been very professional. I just want to say that. Called a board member, called Ms. Horn, and she advised me to call the superintendent and request a meeting. I called, but I got no response. The next day, Kate Good from central office called me confirming the decision to uphold the no trespassing ban, and that's the reason I'm here tonight. I have developed many friends in this school system. After I retired, I worked for Reno Sporting Goods and had a great business with Knox County schools. I now tutor kids, prepare kids for ACT, and have a lifetime pass for Farragut High School athletics. I have lived here since 2008, and I love this community. I have been stripped of my reputation and what I do best, and that is help kids and develop relationships. The Farragut Primary School administration should have handled whatever concern they felt they had directly with me. They did not do that. I ask that Mr. Thomas and the school board reconsider your ruling in this matter. And as I said, I talked to several people in Knox County schools, and they were all very professional. I just wish the administrators at Farragut Primary would have been professional. Thank you for taking my time.
Our next speaker is Kim Kredich.
Hi, I think we had asked that the three of us are speaking on the same topic, so while we all signed up, three of us, but we'd like to do it in a different order, the parent, then the student, and then me. Is that okay?
Do we have to?
When I talk to Ms. Coatney.
Kim, then Gabriella, then Albert.
Yeah, so Gabriella, Albert, Kim.
That's fine.
Does the board have any objection?
Without objection. So just whoever's speaking first, make sure you state your name and your county, please.
Gabriela Miekichi, Knox County. Good evening, everybody. I'm here to speak about the inclusion, and this is my son, Albert Miekichi. He's in high school now. We've been 11 years misled by the Knox County School. So now when he's in a high school, inclusion come and victory for us. He's happy. That's the most important thing. And he's learning. That's the second thing. Or maybe we should go with the learning first. So segregation, it's important, and then waste of time, it's very important too. It's been long years of time that we just wasted. Also, I want to tell you that kids like him don't need to be warehousing and labeled. There is a questionnaire that we took probably a year ago or some time that was very outdated. One of the questions was, did Albert use a public phone? If you know where they are now. Anyway, just one thing that I remember. Also, about the special education. Wonderful teachers. We have wonderful teachers there, but I don't think Albert belonged to the special education. I learned that he went to school bags of rice and beans. I don't think that's very educational either. So if you see a kid with potential, we need to make him learn, not go to community service and do things that I'll teach him how to do that. So very happy because we find an advocate that actually have a voice for me, or maybe voice for Albert. That's the thing. If the kids are labeled, it's really hard to get out of there. So it is a good thing that somehow it works. It works good for us and for Albert. The most important thing is to learn. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Albert Majecki, Knox County. I like high school because it treats me good. What else?
What class classes are you taking?
Oh, math, engineering, English, and and chorus. And
what do you do at lunch? Do you hang out?
oh, and the lunchroom, I like it. I don't eat in a classroom like in middle school. I go and hang out with my friends, have a good time, and I like that. Thanks.
Anything else you want to say? All right. Kim Creditch, Knox County. Well, you've seen me up here before, and it's I don't ever ask parents to come in and speak to you, but this family actually asked what they could do to help. And as you know, I've helped advocate for about 15 students on alternate assessment who are now being fully or almost fully included. Got them out of the CDCA program, where, as you heard, I mean, and Albert's somebody with reliable communication, as you can hear, and he was complaining that he was going to Walmart and scooping rice and beans. And he was not eating lunch with his peers. He was eating lunch in a classroom. He was writing his address over and over and over again. So I hear this over and over and over again. In fact, I've gotten 15 calls from parents since I last came and talked to you, and I've been to numerous IEP meetings. And I'm focusing on students on alternate assessment. I hope you all know what that is. We had 387 students take alternate assessment last year in Knox County, and 41,997 take the regular TCAP EOC. So this is and it's meant to be 1% of the population who has significant disabilities. Albert, my friend here, works at about the first and second grade level. And when somebody is placed on an alternate assessment, the school team has an IEP team statement of assurance. And that includes that her academic instruction will be based on the CCCs linked to the CCSS. Do you all know what the CCCs are? Okay, well, they're core content connectors. And everybody's signing this, but when I'm at IEP meetings, most people don't know what they are. Certainly the regular ed teachers don't know what they are. Most of the special ed teachers, some special ed supervisors, principals, and yet this is what TDOE says, this is the way to include students on alternate assessment. So when I look at your policy, which you recently tweaked, which is fine, when you say that all students with disabilities will be educated in their least restrictive environment, and you actually say the board shall develop and periodically update a local plan for providing special education services for students with disabilities. Specifically, the board assures that a student will be educated in the least restrictive environment. You're not assuring that. I'm actually assuring that, and I'm tired of it, as I said. I would love nothing more than to not go to another IEP meeting. I don't enjoy it. I'm good at it. I can't say no to parents who call me because I see lives change. Albert is at Hardin Valley Academy, and it was the most glorious IEP meeting. I swear birds were singing and the clouds parted, and everybody was on board. They were getting leveled readers for English 1 to his level. That's how you do it. They were using core content connectors. They were accommodating, modifying everything. It was fantastic. But the fact that we had to scrape and claw and I hate to say threaten due process, but the parent was ready to go to due process when we'd ask for 15 minutes of inclusion in math. And so they relented, and this is his right and was his right since he was 3 years old. So if we can't figure out how to include a student like Albert, who has reliable communication with no behaviors, doesn't even need an aide, get some peer tutors in there, how are we going to do that for anybody else right now? You are not fulfilling your policy. I can guarantee you that. I've always tried to help you fulfill it, but I don't think I should have to be the one to fulfill this. There have been some good things going on recently. You adopted the 5-digit course code. I'm assuming TDOE said you must do that. But last week, or when the high school progression plan was published, I saw that there were 5-digit course codes. So now we're actually acknowledging that students like Albert can be included in the regular ed program in classes through the course codes. So in conclusion, and I want to thank Albert and his mother, Gabriella, for coming and speaking to you. If we can figure this out, it would really make, this isn't about me, this is about the lives of all of your students. And we should be supporting the ones who will benefit the most from inclusion, such as Albert. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker is Lois, I'll try not to butcher the last name, Przlowski. Did I get it?
Hi, I'm Dr. Lois Przlowski. Close enough. Lois is fine. And I'm from Knox County. I'm a psychologist, and I own a local practice where we get to work with hundreds of Knox County students and employees. And I'm also happily and finally legally married to a fantastic woman. I'm also parent to a 17-year-old senior in high school who, chairman of the board, Miss Patty Bounds, helped to launch as his beloved kindergarten teacher. She allowed me to do PES, physical education and silliness, on Tuesdays at Brickey, and the Brickey administration also allowed me to volunteer teach the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade gifted and talented classes so that it would continue to be robust despite budget cuts. So like you and with you, we all work hard to let our children know that human excellence comes in all packages. This is only the second time I've been to one of your board meetings. The other was Monday night. You see, because early on Monday morning, I learned that this board was considering eliminating actual or perceived gender and sexual orientation from the school district's employee non-discrimination policy. I knew the right thing to do was to act and to add my voice to those hundreds of emails and those impassioned, passionate people who presented to you in person on Monday. They all oppose this policy on moral grounds, as do I. We find it unjust, discriminatory, and hurtful. Now, democracy needs an educated and healthy populace. Your proposed discriminatory policy against LGBT employees is hurtful and harms the physical and mental health and educational opportunities for everyone involved: students, teachers, administrators, support personnel, and our entire community. Since the truly wise, and I think we're all striving for that, the truly wise understand they know only a part of the truth and are enthusiastic to learn more, I would like to share my remaining time to hear why the board thinks that policy change helps. May we do that, Ms. Bounds?
That's typically not the way public forum works with the board responding to questions as such. So you've got about 2 minutes and 17 seconds now, if you would like to use that for the remainder of the time.
Fair enough. Ms. Hill did email me back promptly with her understanding of why the change was needed, and it did not sound helpful. It sounded bureaucratic and trying to align with our new Justice Department terminologies and intentions that I do not find helpful. Ms. Bounds, I always appreciated your support. Eli I texted him a picture of your position here. He sent back enthusiastic love and congratulations for your position. We are your teachers. We're your coaches, and you don't want to wipe us out of that. A lot of us are really crazy good at sports. We're your community. And as a psychologist practicing every day, I literally left and rearranged clients, Knox County school clients who are going to be directly and negatively affected by this legislation to be here tonight to help. I'm good. I'm 50. You know, we've taken the knocks. We don't need to go backwards. So while I understand Ms. Hill's response, it was her truthful intent that it was not to be discriminatory. Please know that vulnerable populations do not believe this deceitful administration. So for the board, who is trying to do the right thing, and being true is kind. True is kind. I know that you're integrity-filled and want to help. I do not trust that is the case with this administration, nor this Justice Department. Jeff Sessions has quite clearly presented that my time is up, that you're changing the terminology is not how he perceives it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Louise Pavlin.
Louise Pavlin, Knox County. I'm here to discuss a decidedly less emotional topic of rezoning. I'm here to speak for the potential rezoning of several neighborhoods in the northwest sector of the town of Farragut from Hardin Valley Academy to Farragut High School. Last night I was made aware of a community meeting scheduled for the evening of September 21st to discuss this matter. I had already signed up to speak today and decided to press on. I have addressed this issue before in this forum, so I will keep it brief. Currently, Hardin Valley Academy has an enrollment of approximately 2,100 students, 100 students over its maximum capacity. Farragut High School has an enrollment of approximately 1,900 students, 300 students under its maximum capacity. The overcrowding issue in Hardin Valley Academy is a sufficient reason in and of itself to approve a rezoning which would return these neighborhoods to Farragut High School. Utilizing last year's enrollment numbers, approximately half of the students in this area have already voluntarily transferred back to Farragut High School. When you consider the recent rezoning of the middle schools to accommodate Hardin Valley Middle School and these transfers, the students in this area of Farragut will be further isolated from the many relationships they have made throughout their kindergarten through 8th grade experiences. These relationships matter in high school. In addition, rezoning this area is an opportunity to clean up the feeder school pattern and simplify the transportation system. I would like to make this much clear. My point of view should not be taken as a commentary on the education offered at Hardin Valley Academy. It is excellent. Or the teachers or administration at Hardin Valley. They are excellent and incredibly supportive. Hardin Valley Academy offers a high caliber education and prepares students for college. My oldest son is a 2015 graduate of Hardin Valley Academy and currently a computer science major at the University of Tennessee, where he is thriving. With this in mind, I do have one request. If this board does decide to rezone this group of neighborhoods back to Farragut High School, I strongly urge you to allow the current families who wish to remain at Hardin Valley Academy to do so by grandfathering them in. There are several parents who have dedicated their time, talents, and energy by participating, supporting, and holding leadership roles in the Education Foundation, the PTSA, and the Athletic Council, and have done so since Hardin Valley's doors opened. These families deserve to remain with a school that they have dedicated so much of their time to. In closing, I would like to thank you for your consideration in this matter. Further, I would like to thank you for your service to our community. Being in the public service can be a thankless job and very stressful. Getting educated on the issues we face is time-consuming. Trying to make the right decisions to support our children and our teachers is difficult, particularly when considering requirements handed down by the state and federal governments. It can be downright discouraging when you know those requirements are negatively impacting our students and teachers. I remain confident that Knox County has a school board and leadership that value public education and are working diligently to provide a supportive and productive environment in which our students can learn and our teachers can teach. And I think my next email to my state legislators will have the subject line of realistic and relevant. I think those are good terms to be using. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Persephone Webb.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Persephone Webb, and I reside in Knox County. Over the last several days, this board has heard from teachers, students, parents, Knox County residents, and the local LGBT community on a proposal to remove gender and sexual orientation from the KCS Employee Anti-Harassment Policy G220. This change would weaken harassment protections for women and LGBT employees and send a message that these individuals are not valued or respected in Knox County schools. The Knox County community does not support revoking harassment protections for our teachers. Removing gender and sexual orientation from KCS harassment policy is not required by any state or federal law, and replacing gender and sexual orientation with sex does not preserve adequate protections for women and the LGBT community. The Department of Justice under the current administration has taken the position that discrimination based on sexual orientation does not constitute sex discrimination under Title VII, despite decades of judicial precedent to the contrary. This is why local employee protections are more important than ever. Inclusive policies that go above and beyond state and federal baseline protections allow us to protect our own community when the state and federal government will not. Removing gender and sexual orientation from the KCS employment anti-harassment policy puts good teachers at risk and hurts the ability of Knox County schools to attract and retain talented teachers. Many private employers in the area, as well as Metro Nashville Public Schools, Tennessee Board of Regents Schools, the University of Tennessee, the City of Knoxville, and Knox County all proudly include gender identity and sexual orientation in their employment non-discrimination policies. KCS teachers deserve the same policy. But let's take that a step further. Anti-LGBT sentiment, harassment, and hate crimes are happening more and more frequently. Transgender people across the U.S. frequently discriminated against in public accommodations, health care, and employment. Transgender Americans are physically assaulted, raped, and murdered at alarming rates. Instead of weakening protections for at-risk teachers and students, this board should be strengthening protections. You have all received an amendment proposal for policy G220 and a revised amendment proposal for policy J210. These policies prohibit harassment on the basis of gender. However, as they are currently worded, the term gender is open to being differently interpreted according to each teacher or administrator's own personal definition of gender. This makes it impossible for KCS anti-harassment policies to be understood and enforced consistently and effectively, and leaves transgender and gender nonconforming students and teachers and students largely unprotected from gender-based harassment. We're proposing to amend policies G220 and J210 by replacing the word gender with gender identity and gender expression, and by including definitions of gender identity and gender expression so that there can be no confusion regarding the meanings of these terms. The revisions would clarify policies G220 and J210 so that they cannot be misinterpreted to exclude transgender and gender nonconforming individuals. We also propose to add sex to both policies as per state and federal sex discrimination laws. The final version of both policies would provide explicit protections against harassment on the basis of real or perceived gender identity, gender expression, sex, and sexual orientation. Thank you for your interest in making Knox County schools safer and more supportive for women, girls, LGBT teachers, and students. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Kieran Harmon.
Good evening. My name is Kieran Harmon, and I attend Bearden High School in Knox County. Protection for transgender students is desperately needed in Knox County schools. I and other transgender students face ridicule and bullying from our peers. Not only have I been called an it and a she-male, but I've also had to face this harassment alone because the teachers who see it happen won't help me. Some teachers call me a she, even though they know my pronouns are he, him, and then they don't even bother to correct themselves. While I don't mind an occasional slip-up, we all make mistakes, don't get me wrong here. Constantly refusing to call people by their proper pronouns or identity should not be allowed in our schools if we truly want to make everyone feel accepted. Furthermore, to address the bathroom and locker room situation, school should have a private space for individuals who want it. However, this should not be a forced policy, and people should have the option of choosing what bathroom they want to use. Forcing transgender students to use segregated facilities instead of the gendered student bathroom creates many problems. Transgender students are forced to use the staff restroom at our school, which constantly has janitors and teachers questioning us as we go in. On multiple occasions, I have been stopped. I have been told that I shouldn't go in there, and I have been asked and forced to out myself and my identity. There should be training put in place for teachers to learn about transgender people and how we should be treated. Otherwise, these incidents will be repeated time and time again because of their lack of knowledge on the subject. Lastly, I want to say that I am against the school board taking gender and sexual orientation out of the teacher anti-harassment policy. If you won't even support LGBT teachers, how are LGBT students supposed to feel safe in school? We are your teachers. We are your children. We are everyone in this community, and yet you treat us like we are nothing.
Concludes public forum. Move adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.